make the hard but right calls, which might be unpopular from time to time, you put the business further and further at risk. We averaged 170% growth for 3 years. So we were more than doubling year on year for a few years there, but it was unsustainable. We would anticipate growth before it happened. We grew our overheads faster than revenue. Like Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you're going to see who's been swimming naked real quick. And we were swimming naked for quite a while. That few hundred is pretty much, that's my house. An ATO debt was currently sitting at 620,000 that we couldn't yet figure out how to pay off. It's hard to make a dollar, but it's so easy to see it go.
Give us some examples of those hard decisions and those hard conversations you have to go in. Jordan Gauder, CEO and founder of Gen Physio. Welcome to the Founders Fire.
And thanks for having me. Excited to be on the podcast.
Well, listen, and you've come up from the Gold Coast as well, so thanks for making the big journey up the highway to Brisbane. How's it feel to be in the big city?
Bris Vegas is always good fun. Apart from in the city with no car parks and the one-way lanes, it's something. Gold Coast is getting to that stage with population, less car parks, but we don't have the crazy one-way lanes where you miss a turn and you're going around in circles. So, but it's always good fun to travel up here and there.
Mate, awesome. Really excited about this one because I think yours is a really cool founder story of growth, of real challenge, real learning, and almost to do like a rebirth, right? And coming out the other side. But let's start by simply just giving a bird's eye view of what is Gen Physio, what's the business, who are you, and where's the business at today currently?
Yeah, well, that's a big story. So hopefully I can get through it in the time that we have. But to give you the high level view, started with myself back in 2015. I was 18 months out as a Bond University graduate in the Doctor of Physio degree and working in residential aged care purely as a physio at the facility. And it was just an idea that came to mind where I got asked quite frequently from doctors that were doing inpatient visits to the facility. They were asking me, do you know if there's a home visit physio that could see some of our patients from the clinic at home? And could you help us out? And I got that question quite frequently from different GPs that were traveling in and saw there was a gap in the market. And in 2015, I realized that, I can leverage my contacts here and a passion for aged care. Always loved aged care as a physio and the rehabilitation neuro side of it. And if I bring that together and go, why don't I be purely a home visit physio and bring this in-home rehabilitation to life? And that's sort of how it all began. So it was the technician being the physio thinking that, hey, let's start a business, not really knowing exactly what the journey was going to be, and certainly didn't envision it being where it is today. But that's sort of how it all began.
Awesome. And then the business today, so you're about 90 staff, you said, aren't you, across Victoria, Queensland?
Yep. So about 90% of our workforce are in Southeast Queensland. That's our bread and butter, and that's where we started, all on the Gold Coast 11 years ago now. And we have expanded nationally back to my hometown, born and grew up in Melbourne for the first 13 years of my life. So it's nice to be able to bring that service back there. And but 90% of our business is Southeast Queensland and a mix of allied health. So we're not just physiotherapy, even though the name itself, Gen Physio, might suggest it is, but it's a multidisciplinary, which is different services, physio, OT, speech, and we've got podiatry, dietetics, exercise physiologists. We have a mixture of different disciplines traveling to see clients within their home.
Mega. I mean, and well, congratulations, because 11 years in business is no mean feat. So
it's definitely has its trials and tribulations along the way, and when it all started in 2015, it was just me as a physio, offering a service that wasn't really offered before at in-home physio service, and I just wanted to help people, and we still do. That's really what we're all about. How can we help people, as many as we can in the community, in a in-home rehabilitation
Yeah,
capacity?
such a good purpose. One thing I ask all founders before we
Mhm.
get into the nitty gritty of of the story and some of your experiences is, what was life like for you growing up? Were you sort of, normal childhood, tough childhood? Were you surrounded by business owners? Were you think you were destined to be an entrepreneur?
God, we're going back to the roots.
Yeah,
Ooh, look, my childhood was great.
yeah.
I had two hardworking parents that were. My dad was an engineer and worked in the city in Melbourne. If I'm going back to really the
Yeah, yeah,
roots before
absolutely.
we moved to the Gold Coast, and I just remember him waking up really early in the morning. The alarm going off at, or might have been 5:30 or quarter to six, and they'd have the radio playing, and mum and
Remember
dad
that
would lie
well.
in bed, and that would be in the and they would slow dad would slowly get out, get ready, and he'd be gone pretty much before we would wake up, and he would come back at night around 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
and it was big days. But back then, we lived out in the outer suburbs of Melbourne, in a place called Warrandyte, which is about close to an hour's drive to the city. And Dad worked in the city, so for
Oh,
many years he was traveling in and out. And Mum, for a period there, didn't work at a job, but she had one of the hardest jobs, which is no income paying, which is looking after us. But Mum was always entrepreneurial, and Mum started a salon called Fancy Fingers.
what
With
great name.
Yes, so she was doing nails, she was doing waxing, she was doing all the beauty therapy side of things at a local. She had a salon at one of the local shopping centers,
Yeah.
and so Mum's had a few different gigs over that time, and she's Mum recently. Well, when I say recent, 10 years ago started her own businesses, and her own business in training and education has done phenomenally well, very, very well. But, childhood always was taught, go to school, get good grades, go to university, and do the best you can, and work yourself into a good job.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. But no, I had a very good childhood. Went to Catholic schools. Not the upper end of town by any means, but wasn't public. It was kind of smack bang in the middle, which was really nice. We were
Yeah.
Catholic raised, and yes, education was fantastic, both in Melbourne and on the Gold Coast, and Burleigh. That's where we moved, the lovely Burleigh Heads, before it became as cool as what it is now. Uh, yeah, so I always had a good work ethic instilled in me,
Yeah.
both from my dad, from his long days working in the city in a corporate private job, and and then my mum being an entrepreneur with the different businesses that she's had over her lifetime.
Yeah, man. I just think it's always interesting to understand where people have come from, right? Because I think it shapes so much of what's to come. You know, your early foundations definitely have an impact. Take us to day one of Gen Physio. So like, it's just yourself. Are you just sort of like, young, carefree, like it'll all be good? Are you panicking? Like, where you at?
Yeah. This is a good one. So good segue into a bit of the upbringing. So my dad, as I mentioned before, was very much get good grades, go to
Yeah, like my
university,
dad.
and get a very good stable job, and that's pretty much the blueprint. When I told him that I'm quitting my job after 18 months as a physio, working for this the aged care company that I started at. I told him that I was leaving and starting my own home visit mobile physio business. It didn't go down too well with him, as you can imagine, especially after 5 years at Bond University. And for those for the Bond University, for those who don't know, is not a cheap
Yeah.
university by any means. You're looking at about $100,000 per degree,
Oh,
and even a little bit more for the Doctor of Physio degree. So it was over $200,000 in education, and within 18 months, I said I'm going out on my own. But it was as a physio, so it wasn't a completely different business, and I was very passionate about being a physio. But I only knew about this months after I started Gen Physio. That dad struggled to go to sleep for that week and was tossing and turning and
Oh,
couldn't
really?
really didn't sit with him well. That he didn't understand. He never told me to my face that it was something that he was against or disagreed with, but it wasn't easy for him, and rightfully so. That was a big risk that I was taking, and I was living at home at the time. I was only 25 years old, or 24 actually, when I had the idea of going out. So end of 2014 of going out on my own, and yeah, it he had to process it. I still remember this, where I only had enough clients to begin with for maybe a day's worth of work spread over a couple of days, and I would spend the day at home working on, the classic sort of thing, branding. Is my business name going to be there? Got to get business cards and all the basics.
Yeah.
But when he came back from work, because this is all he knew, he's like, he just saw me stuffing around at home and wasn't working or seeing client. And I used to tell him, Dad, I'm working on my business and I'm trying to get clients. It's only been, a couple of weeks where it's coming. But for him, it was a hard concept
Yeah, it is a
to
way, yeah,
understand.
100%. Yeah. And so did you feel any extra pressure? Therefore, like thinking, well, dad's obviously concerned, like I've got to make this work. Was there any, or did it not really factor in?
Self belief has always been pretty high.
Yeah, good.
Luckily, through sports growing up and working on myself and competing at a good level with AFL and also surf life saving and beach flag sprints, and I just always knew that, oh, this is going to work whatever I do. But I was very fortunate that I was at home. Rent was pretty cheap at the time, and I was got looked after very well. And I always thought, well, look, if it doesn't work, at least I say I've tried. I'm young enough, and uh, I'm living at home pretty cheaply at the moment, so this is the time to give it a go.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna jump down the sports avenue there because I just think there's so much to take from sport and semi-professional high performance sport into business. Like
Absolutely.
bags fills, whether it be the self belief, the discipline, the never give up, the resilience. Like for you and your, I guess, your sporting journey in your younger years, like looking back now, what do you think sort of are the key takeaways or the key sort of skills or elements you got from your sports you could apply onto this?
Yeah, look, business is like a sport, and
A blood sport.
yeah, it's tough. Business can really break you, make or break you, and it has its exciting parts and has its tough moments. But it's very much like sport. You need to work on yourself. You need to be upskilling. You need to be uh, developing yourself. You need to have coaches, advisors. You need to be reading. Like in sports, you need to be going 100% at training. You need to be attending all the training sessions. You need to make sure game day prep is planned. There's discipline. There's focus, and there's so many, and you're competing. Business is a competition in terms of you've got other people out there that are wanting your market share. And while I don't look at competitors, and certainly not like I used to anyway, it's everyone out there's having a go. But what I realized is that uh, all you can do to be the best you can is working on yourself. And like in sport, rather looking around you at all these other great athletes on your team, or the team that you're competing against on the day, what are you doing in between those game days? What are you doing to work on yourself is how you're going to unlock your best self. And I think business is the exact same. So sports was great. It's taught me to work in a team. It's taught me to uh, uh, it's taught me resilience. It's taught you hardship. It's taught, I guess, being humble in defeat,
Yeah.
and not everything goes to plan. And then it's, so I think it's absolutely critical.
It's a really interesting thing you mentioned there. And maybe the biggest takeaway is that ability to work on yourself, right? And you
Mm.
see that in sport, right? You look at players who make it, maybe those who don't, and yes, there's an element of talent, but there's people who are always doing the extras, right? Or showing extra commitment or pushing for better results. Do you think like a lot of founders forget that and they throw themselves into a business in the early days and they almost forget, never mind even self-care, but self-growth and self-development?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason being is that raw talent can take you quite
By far.
quite far. It happened to us in the early days, and we still have our own challenges, but like any business does, but raw talent can be a hidden. It can be a crutch, potentially, if you don't keep it in check, and you can get quite far on it. And I'm thinking back to my sports days, 13, 14. I hit puberty pretty young. I was playing ruck for those who don't know, and for AFL, that's the tallest, biggest person on the team. You're basically jumping up and
Yeah.
hitting the ball to your rovers and your centers, and it wouldn't be ruck now. I'd be the
Yeah.
shorter, maybe not the shortest guy in the field, but I'm just
Not a
thinking back.
ruckman, yeah.
I was a best and fairest winner for my club, and I got voted in to potentially win what the Brownslow equivalent on the Gold Coast between all clubs. I didn't, but I best and fairest out of the whole league. I didn't win that,
Incredible.
but I was there on the night, and raw talent got me a long way. But I was interested in watching movies and playing video games, and I didn't spend enough time on my craft, which was predominantly AFL, and I love the sport and still do. But I was I used my raw talent too much,
Yeah.
and I noticed very quickly within a couple of years, as I hit probably 15, 16, others started to catch up in size. But not just that, I didn't realize, at least initially, that they were putting in the work outside of training. I just thought doing what I was asked to do and doing that well was enough.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that people were hitting the gym beyond that, which I was at the time, strength training, but I wasn't related to my sport. It
Yeah.
was more just for your own fitness and health and
Look good for the
getting the
beach.
mirror.
Yeah,
Look
looking
good
for
for
a
the
good beach
beach.
on the
I'm a
Gold
Gold
Coast. Yeah, I
Coaster.
was gonna
Come
say
on, you got
Gold
to make
Coast. Yeah.
sure that the body's right for summer. I mean, what's going on here? The mirror muscles, we
Yeah,
like to say.
100%.
But that
Chest and guns 3 times a week.
that's it. So like, I wasn't honing my skill sets and putting the work in above, and that started to show. And the same in business. People only see what's on the surface, and and the self development and the work that goes in behind closed doors. That's what really matters. And
Mm.
yeah, raw talent can get you so far, especially in business. But that's when, if you don't get your ego in check and you get a few really good wins on the board straight away, you might think you're untouchable, and you don't know what you don't know.
I feel like we've opened the door here, so we're gonna jump into it. So the early days of Gen Physio,
Hmm.
was that raw talent, do you think? Just like talk us through the early days. How did
Yeah.
you scale? How did you get it going?
Well, mum, after the salon phase, she went into hospitality and was very much in retail, and was very big on getting me work. I remember she'd come pick me up at school one day and go, throw on some clothes. I've got an interview for you at Rebel Sport, at Rabina. I was going, Mum, what the
What's
what the
going on?
hell? Yeah, and so I think, and in my years at school, I worked in retail, and I got a good exposure to customer service and working with people. So I had the physio skills. I had my degree, and I worked in 18 months in aged care, and mobile physio or home visit physio was just aged care almost in the home at the time. This is well before NDIS and the disability market opened up. This is predominantly, 80, 75, 80 plus year old
Yeah.
clients I was working with. But I got the skill sets as being a physio, at least from my degree and some of work exposure. And then I had some really good skills that I worked on through working with people and working with clients, working with customers that walk into clothing stores, like working at City Beach at a period there, Rebel Sport. then even at Subway for quite a few years, working at Metricon Stadium and Skilled Park Stadium, which I think is C Bus now. So they're working at the AFL and rugby games and working up in the suites and the boxes there with other business owners. I got to learn how to work with people, and that was a really important skill set in the early days. That, especially being a physio, you're in and being in clients' homes. There's a lot of trust that needs to happen, and it's not just the therapy and the outcomes I'm getting for the client, whether it's reducing their pain, improving their mobility, giving them the confidence to transfer from the chair to the bed to getting around the house. It was, do they actually like me
Mm.
being present as their trusted professional? And I think not being the smartest physio that ever walked the earth or the highest grades through university, but I was able to build, I guess, the trust and empathy and from a client and use my skills growing up, and that's kind of really how it took off quite quickly. That I could build a caseload and my reputation just as a sole trader at the time in the early days of Gen Physio. That Jordan's a really good physio, but it wasn't good in just terms of getting great outcomes, which I like to feel that I did. But it was good in terms of putting 100% into working with clients. I'd pick up my phone if they had questions. I was there. I was on time. I made sure that I was professional, and there are so many other elements
It's like all
in
like
a
just doing the
service.
one percenters like really
It's the
well, right?
it's the
But
one
doing them well,
percenters,
yeah.
yeah. I didn't have the high end grades and know every little part of the anatomy, but I knew how to understand what the client wanted, and I worked with them to help them achieve their goals. I didn't tell them this is what you should do, and this is, and I'm gonna, and it was a partnership in therapy rather than these are your goals that you should have. It's, well, what do you want to do, and then how can we bring that together, and how can
I love that.
I work on things that you want to? Because if you get offside at your client, doesn't matter how amazing you are at your craft, they're
Disengaged, aren't they?
potentially they're going to be disengaged, and you're not going to have a client. You're not going to get great outcomes with them because they're not going to be wanting to continue to pay to see you. And most of our clients back in the early days were all private clients. What currently right now, 98% of our revenue and work that we do is government funded.
Yeah, wow.
So it's completely switched
Big
on its
shift.
head. But certainly in the early days, a lot of our clients were private paying, fee for service, and value. So there was yeah, you had to really, the client was your customer, that
Yeah.
was your person. Whereas now we're quite B2B, and we work with referrers and aged care organizations and support coordinators from NDIS.
So how long were you on your own for? And when did the team start to grow? And when did the business start to
Yeah,
kick on?
so in 2015, things were going quite well. I was still living at home. I was building up a caseload. The reputation was getting out there that there's a mobile physio on the Gold Coast, Jordan, Gen Physio. Things were going well, and it got to a point where it was about almost a year later. I was too busy. I was turning away clients. I couldn't, and I had that yo-yo effect of being a sole trader, which is terrifying, where you don't know when the next job's sort of coming
Yeah.
in. You're too busy doing the work. You're not focusing enough on referral, like working on your marketing systems and generating referrals on demand and learning, paid ads. And so I realized, well, if I'm going to help more people, and I hate turning away or losing a client, how do I, well, what do I need to do? And I realized that I needed to grow a team, and I was really excited. I love what we do. I'm very passionate about our business because being a mobile physio, not being in a clinic, being in clients' homes every day, it's just the most amazing, the most amazing job. It's awesome. And obviously my life and my role here at Gen Physio is completely different, but I wanted to bring other clinicians into this, which is other allied health professionals, physios, EPs. Those were our first couple of disciplines that we brought in, or obviously expanding the physio team from myself. I wanted to share that there's an opportunity to have a career outside of a clinic, a brick and mortar practice, or hospital.
Mm.
And what we were doing is pretty new. And So not only did I want to share my other colleagues in the same discipline or other disciplines that there's another world out there, another career that you can have, but also I wanted to help more people, and it was just both going to go. I need help. Myself, we need to grow the team, and we want to improve on what we do, and that's kind of how.
And how
So
quickly did that growth come? Like, was it were you
so that
having
was
physios?
2016. Uh, Funny enough, here I've got a story for you on this. So our very first hire was a physio, and like most business owners, I was so busy. I did losing a couple clients. I need help.
Yeah.
Pretty much threw a job ad out there, figured out Seek, and the first application, and I think only the application that I got, was a quite experienced physiotherapist who was kind of told me what I wanted to hear and only wanted part time, which is good. I only needed a few days a week just to get somebody on
Yeah.
board, and got the equipment and brought him on board, and it was a disaster. I remember I would have most of my clients that it was really hard for me to hand over to him, and then he would. I remember I'd have a day fully booked of clients for him, and then I would get a message, text message, 6:30 in the morning. "Oh, I can't make it today." And I'm all for when you're calling in sick. That's fine. That's your absolute right. But in the first few weeks, when you're trying to bring somebody
Mm.
on, and it's the late notice, sorry. Okay, first time, that's okay. But when it was the second and third time in the couple of weeks after, it became a problem. I started second guessing, what am I doing here? So I called all these clients. I had no admin at the time. Would put those clients onto my diary and try and see double the amount of work and extend my hours and try and do 10, 12 hour days. But I remember it was at a point where I was like, I think I got to let this person go. I didn't even know how the
How
Fair
to do
Work
that? Yeah.
rules work. I'm looking up on Google at night, and he's in probation, so it was an issue. But he just, was a good physio, and he was a very intelligent person. And but there were the skills that I was talking about before, the one percenters, the reliability, the building relationships with clients, being personable, and there was just something missing there.
That's
And
that first lesson that it's so hard to be able to replicate yourself because like the care you have is hard to replicate, right? Because it's your business, it's your passion,
of
it's your
course, well, the attitude, you can't really train attitude. And I was going to let him go. I reckon I mustered up the courage, because I'm just like, this is not reliable, and it's hurting the business and my clients. And he called me the day before I was going to call him up and give him the news that it's not working. He said, "Look, it's not working," and I was going, "Okay." So in a way, it was a win, but like how it
you're
happens,
buzzing, yeah.
he was telling me, "Look, I was kind of lying to you," and I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And well, I've got other jobs I didn't tell you about. I told you that I was only doing extra study at uni, doing doing a master's in sports physio and doing extra education there. But I'm working at a clinic, and every day, if they had a heap of clients for me, I would call in sick for you and then go to the clinic, because I was on a contractor arrangement. I could earn more per the hour, and that cut me deep. The distrust there. That so when they would call him up and said, "Hey, we've got clients. Somebody called in sick. We need you." He would call in sick,
Got ya.
and that was it. And so I realized my next hire, I was like, I've got to hire full time, someone
Did
who's
that put you
committed.
off hiring? Like, did it? Because you're still relatively young at that stage, and like
Yeah, I
you've just
was
been
20
like first
26
hire,
now.
yeah.
So we're going to born in 1990, something 2016. Yeah, 26 years old.
And you made
And
your
the
first
first
hire,
hire
and you've
was the
been let,
worst,
yeah, and you've
one of
been
the
let
worst.
down.
Still, yes, in terms of that experience, obviously I picked up some, I should have picked up on all these red flags that you don't know it's a red flag
No,
until you learn. You don't know what you don't know. But uh, my next hire was actually an exercise physiologist. So someone who is more specializing in the exercise therapy rehab side of things, which was actually a really nice compliment to me as a physio who could do a mixture of hands-on and exercise approach. And I got somebody full time, and that worked really well. Then I had somebody who was committed, and I could get more reliability. And that's sort of how it took off. And that team
Nice.
member, the next two hires from then, so one was an exercise physiologist, the next one was a physio. Both of them stayed with us for 7 years, and was fantastic to have them in the business
Oh
for
wow.
such a considerable amount of time. Like anything, there are cycles and seasons, and it was their time to do their thing. But I I learned very quickly just the basic fundamentals of interviewing and asking more questions, and how I onboarded them, and making it full time. I felt was the right move.
Yeah, yeah, because you need them. Yeah, you need the commitment. So I think you like, if I'm right, you grow fairly steadily till 2019. In 2019, you make a big decision to sort of come off the tools
Yep.
and really become the CEO and the business owner. What first of all drove that decision, and how challenging was it? Because on paper it sounds easy to split. I'm off the tools, but
Yeah, so that was the hard part, that the business was growing and was demanding more from me as a business owner, and less of me as a physiotherapist.
mm,
And I realized that if I'm we got to a team of around 20 full-time equivalents, so maybe around close to 25 team members with a few admin as well. We had team members across Brisbane and Gold Coast. It was getting to a point where I would, for half a day, see clients, and then the half a day work on my business. But I'd be reactive and just putting out fires, and didn't get time to work on the business in to prepare it for growth,
yeah,
or to work on things to prevent things from breaking again. And it got to a really hard point where I need to fully dive in and just jump in head first, get off the tools, and focus on being a better business owner for the sake of my clients, for the sake of our clinicians and team, admin team, and for our referrers. That if I'm to level up this business, I need to level up myself, and I can't do that by wearing too many hats. And I made that leap, and it was scary because you're handing over clients that I've seen for now
yes,
years. They were good paying clients. They trusted me. It was, in a way, it's weird. It was like easy money in a sense that I knew how to work with these clients. They wanted to work with me. I was getting great results, and I worked with them for months or years. It was the calm
yeah.
aspect of the role. The hard part was the business side, but I knew that if I was to level up, and I was 29 at the time, for bring it back to 2019, I needed to lean in more heavily to the business aspect of Gen Physio and Allied Health.
And so, was there a conscious decision at that point, like, we've got this good business, it's going well. I want to like get to 100 people. Like, what was driving you? Were you like, I want to grow, I want to scale? Was
Yep.
that the goal?
Look, the goal was just always, how can we help more people in the
Okay.
community? And to do that, I needed to grow my team. And really, in 2019, that was a big year for us. So the NDIS rolled out across southeast Queensland, starting from January 2019. And it wasn't the big boom that we first thought it would be. But once people started realizing that they could get access to allied health, fully funded allied health, for companies like us, we were registered at the time. That was actually quite an easy process, but we were fully registered. And the phones just started ringing off the hook. I'll almost
Oh,
never
good.
forget it. And we didn't even have an office at the time. We had a small virtual office, but we worked from home. So uh, it was funny. It was getting to point as our support team, is like what I like to call it. So these are our non-clinical
Yeah.
team members, the ones that help support our clinicians and our clients. So the kind of backbone of the business, or the engine room. I used to have them come around our house once a fortnight, and what much to my wife's disgust, she'd be getting ready to go to work at her accounting job, and there would be team members all over the kitchen, the dining table, outside. I had about 7 or 8 team members working there once a fortnight, because I realized growing the business solely remotely, which is what it was at the time, was starting to become a bit of a challenge,
Yeah.
and cracks were showing. So I'm like, I've got to get the team together. So using the house, and oh, look, I could only use that for a few months before my wife lost it and said, "You're going to have to get an office. This is not going to work." And fair enough, people in the house, the team working away. But that's 2019. But at that point, NDIS was launching, and there was so much opportunity, and our phones are ringing off the hook. with clients and support coordinators needing physiotherapy for their clients, occupational therapy, speech pathology. We expanded into speech in 2019 as well, and it was just okay. They really liked the home visit model. The and by our guys are completely mobile, so we're mobile, so we're not treating clients just in the home, but we're in schools, uh, childcare facilities, special needs school. We're in hydrotherapy centers, aquatic centers, gyms. So really, it's completely we come to you. This sort of our motto.
COVID must have been awesome for you guys because you're sort of almost custom built for COVID, right? Well, all the clinics are shutting down. You're like, well, we'll continue.
Yeah, so that's not only when the NDIS was rolling out and it was like a rocket fuel to an engine, our business model, which was still fairly unique at the time. There wasn't many mobile home visit only businesses like ours in the allied health space. You had the NDIS rollout and clients finally getting access to much needed care and funding and could access companies like us without spending, out of pocket, which wasn't feasible for most of them. Then we started to really grow and we had a really big hiring intake in 2020 of new graduate clinicians across or pretty much most of Southeast Queensland. And yes, then COVID happened and it was an absolute scare and real challenge, at least initially. But obviously, being a home visit model, clients were reluctant to go to the clinic. And whilst our nature of our work isn't heavily sports and
Mm.
musculoskeletal, we did grow quite quickly and we're a big benefactor of the stay in your homes and we're an essential healthcare service. So we were like game on. So I could only feel for the clinics who really had a hard time for 2020 and 21
Yeah.
just from the private Facebook forums I'm
Yeah.
part of. A lot of physio clinic owners are in there, and I could see the hardship they were going through. And but just luckily with our business model and being that flexible and adaptable and mobile, it worked really well.
So, mate, you're in your early 30s. You built this awesome business. Like, you're on the Gold Coast. You're in shape. You're
I
pumping.
try.
Life's good. What what happens? So there must be, where does it start to go wrong, or when does things start to get
Ooh.
to get tricky?
Yeah, so probably the first big challenge that I can remember was in before this point where we really hit a trajectory and like a bell curve went up in growth, headcount, services, revenue, all of that. It brings you back to 2018. And this is when we were around the 20 odd team members, maybe 25. And I thought that, things were going well and we can't do no wrong. And it was, I had the advisors around me like you do, but still, at the end of the day, you're driving your business, not your advisors, not anyone else. You
Mm.
really have to know your craft and you know your business better than anyone else. And being only a few years into the journey, I thought, well, we were doing probably almost 2 million in revenue and things were looking up. And I was only, 27 at the time. I went, let's go and upgrade the car and went to Range Rover on the Gold Coast and put in an order for a $230,000 Range Rover Sport autobiography. And like us, business owner, and I had a decent team of around 20, but we look at the business bank account and think it's our money when it's not. It's most of it's the ATOs and then payroll and everything else that required to operate a business. But I thought, well, my money's the business bank accounts, right? That's the
That's how it
and I'm
works.
married
Yeah.
to an accountant, so go figure. But this is my mindset, and put in the order for this big expensive Range Rover, and it came. It arrived the week of my birthday, February 2018, and the reason why I don't forget this is because only a week prior, I had one of my physios at the time say, "Hey, you're not paying super." And I go, "What? Yeah, I am. Look in your pay slips. I checked the pay slip. It's there." And he goes, "Yeah, it's not coming into my super account." And absolutely confused, perplexed because, I trusted my bookkeeper. I thought that the bookkeeper was paying super, and they thought I was paying super, and I didn't realize that it wasn't just running payroll and it comes up onto the pay slips. I figured
Still got to press a
you
button.
still got to press the button to, now it's the super clearinghouse, and
Yeah.
now we got payday and all the rest. But before then, it wasn't. It was a bit more loose, and he was quite aggressive. How dare you? You better be paying my. And I was shocked. I was like, hang on, like, this must be a mistake. Let me investigate. I'm sorry. He's like, I've been burned before. My last employee didn't pay, still didn't, and said yeah, 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 and I was like, look, this is not how I roll. I'm genuine. I'm honest. I'll say what I mean, and I'll back it up. If it's not being paid, you will be looked after. And so I asked my bookkeeper accountants at the time, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we were paying it, but when we did this change and blah, 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 a year ago, we stopped." And I'm going, "Well, hang on a minute. What do you mean?" So, yeah, oh, yeah, we've got to have to do some numbers. And at the time, I think I remember I had 55 grand in the bank account. And, uh, and they go, "Yep, with penalties," because I'm learning the hard one. I go, I'm not one to run away
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah. Face up.
repercussions and face justice and all the rest. But I got a right or wrong. It was a accident. But my accountant said, "Yep, okay, so you owe 40 odd thousand, but then once you have to 10% interest, even though it was only a 6 or 7% growth, whatever calculate, you've got to pay for the missed growth that they got in their supers," which is fair enough. I get that. So I became their super fund for the year. And then you also got to pay fees and penalties to the ATO on top of that. So all in all, you owe about $52,000. And I just went, okay, well, look, good news is I've got 55 in the account. I'll see a couple more clients myself. Business is coming along. I can take this hit and keep going. Bruce Linton, which was Range Rover at the time, said, "Jordan, congratulations. Your car's been custom built from the UK. We've shipped it over. It's just arrived in the shipping yards and it's on your way. Congratulations. This is the brand new model." Which was you're the first person on the Gold Coast to get our latest Range Rover with all the new tech. Just we need that $50,000 deposit from you before your loan will kick in to cover the other
Yeah.
150 plus that difference. And I remember I was
What's going through
distraught.
what is going through your mind at like when in that moment?
Obviously, it was I effed up big
Yeah.
time, and it was a massive mistake and a genuine mistake. And embarrassment too, because all my friends, and this was, back when I was 27, about to turn 28, to buy a 200K plus car and at 27 years old was, kind of,
Well,
what's
your
this guy
friends think
doing?
you've
I
made it,
thought,
yeah.
oh, I've mastered business, right? And I told everyone's asking me, it's coming, it's coming. Oh my God, it's almost here. How's it going? And it was a sheer embarrassment. And I was my wife Sam. I was saying, I think I need to pull the pin. And I spoke to the salesperson. At the end of the day, they're a
Of
salesperson, but
course
I
they are.
was called them. I don't think I could I don't think I could do this. And you don't let me down, Jordan. I don't want to let anyone down, but it's Range Rover. I mean, they're the people you can let down.
Yeah,
Learning later,
100%.
it's not worth it. But I was like, how do I make this work? And I was like, I don't want this embarrassment. I need to push through. And then I was, at the time from business gurus I was following, it was like, you know, my dad taught me that he's so successful in business, but he was driving a Bentley and he was broke and almost on the brink. But that he got up every day and was in that Bentley and knew that I've got to
Yeah.
keep working to keep my head above water. And
It's amazing what the algorithm throws at you.
and the algorithms were heavy at the time. And I was like, you're right. I don't care if I've got to make this through. I've got to say yes to everything and I've got to back myself. So I realized that I can do like a 3-month payment plan with Super, covering all the penalties. So I paid it over like a 3 month
So you
a
paid the
monthly
car.
installments in three. I called up mum, who was just starting her own business at the time, and said, "I need you to spot me some cash. I need like 30 or 40 grand to make up the difference." And she said, "Yep, whatever you need." and I thank her for that. I don't even know if I should told many people that one, but even my own family. And yeah, I got the car and I paid the team. And yeah, I still remember driving around the Gold Coast in the latest, most snazzy car at 28, just on my birthday, broke as hell.
Did you
Luck.
feel broke? Or were you not
Well, the
like,
bank accounts tell the story that I was, but I never felt it because referrals were coming in. We were growing and we're in huge demand, and the business model was fantastic. And I had a really good team, and they're let's go. So was I, technically broke? Yes, but I
mm,
never missed a payment, apart from super. But from then, always kept my payments and did what I could. And we were still small enough. I'll just see a few more clients, and we'll
but
make it work.
presumably at that point, the business is almost like running month to month, right? Like you're
Yeah,
getting paid,
it
you're paying out,
was
you're getting paid, you're paying
correct
out.
because we were growing quickly. We could use the incoming cash to support growth because your BAS and your quarterly payments and things they're due months after the fact. So you've got that cash flow, uh, arbitrage, if that's the right word, to keep your head above water. And I use that, time and cash in to time out. Luckily, in allied health in our business, where our age debtors is about 10 days, which means that within 2 weeks we get all our bills paid on average.
Yeah,
Some a lot
nice.
longer, some obviously a lot quicker. So luckily, cash in is pretty good with our business and our industry.
But if you're
Oh
paying
gosh.
month to month when like, every quarter the BAS statement comes around of a tax bill comes in, what's happening then?
Well, lucky for us, we don't pay GST in terms of we don't have to. That's not a risk to us because we're allied health professionals.
Yeah.
Where so our the BAS for us was PAYG. That
Okay.
was the biggest challenge at that. Um, so, but you make it work. And because if your growth can outstrip your expenses, you can get you out of tight situations. So that was the first humbling moment that you know I had all the professional advisors. I had like a monthly business advisory service where they were running projections and helping with budgets and all of that, and we missed this. So that was the first humbling moment that you don't know what you don't know, and probably it still took me a little bit, but not until really 2019, about a year after that, I realized I've got to join business advisory boards. I've got to look at getting coaching, and you need to you need to surround yourself with people that have walked the path that you're going.
And what was driving that? Was that a desire to improve yourself, like we spoke about, or is it also was it more desire not to be in that situation you've just been in again?
Yeah, it was. Look, it's always to improve,
Mm.
right? Because yes, I didn't want to be in that situation again, but for me to to prevent us from going down that road is to improve myself and my skills and I guess acumen as a business owner. And then yeah, so that was yeah, self development was always important to me. But after that humbling moment in 2018 came to 2019 where the NDIS was rolling out. It was just a perfect kind of our business model just gelled in well. And from 2020 is when the real big growth, but the big, I guess, with comes big growth comes new big challenges.
And what were that? What were the biggest challenges faced in that growth period?
Oh, well, it's come to about it's almost 3 years ago now. We back then 3-4 years ago, from thinking about what I was like as a business leader and as a person, as an individual, we had a really few good years with runs on the board. As I was saying, we were doing really well in the aged care market, and NDIS rolled out, and it was just perfect for our business model. Then COVID came, and so home visit was
There, you're
just
on the crest of
perfect.
a wave.
Yeah, we're on a good wave, and we're on a good run. But that was largely external factors. Yes, you've got to be in the right place at the right time, and you create your own luck. But we're on a really good run. So it was just growth for growth's sake. We want to help more people. We want to help more client. We don't want to turn away work. What do we need to do?
When you say growth
And
for growth's sake, is that like a bit of sort of ego appearing there, or
absolutely. So
yeah,
that was more or less the ego was quite big. And, you need to have a healthy amount of ego as a
yeah,
business owner because to go out and start a business, you're kind of nuts in your own right, and you kind of have to
hundred
be a little
percent,
bit, you bit have to be left of center because
yeah.
the challenges you go through, it could make or break you. And that was the point. It was 2023 is where the real challenge came in. So for us, we grew nationally. So we grew into multiple states, South Australia, New South Wales, we're in Vic, and we had Queensland pretty well on lock. But it was growth for growth's sake. So it was about how can we just grow, and there was no real there wasn't enough strategic planning and focus on building good foundations. It was we just got to grow fast to capture this great rollout of NDIS before that slows down or competitors will catch up. And so I was hiring senior leaders, executives to come help and shape the business. But it was like we were talking at lunch earlier. It's like business, you're flying the plane and you're kind of building
Yeah,
along
yeah.
the way. The problem was that the plane was in full throttle and we weren't building as fast enough that the velocity of the movement was going. And
I think that
so,
was down to not having the right people in the right seats, or was it
look,
were
it's
you
a
bringing the
combination.
right people
Yes,
in, or is it a
it's such
combination?
a look. What I was trying to get to is that uh, we grew. Because we were growing so fast in the previous years. We're talking, I think we averaged 170% growth for 3 years.
Yeah,
So
wow.
we were more than doubling year on year for a few years there, but it was unsustainable. And what we would do is, because year on year we were growing so much, we would anticipate growth before it happened. And so we would hire on board, get our team trained up, have all the equipment and ready to go uh, before the work came in, well before. And the, not only we were doing that, but we grew our support team. So our support office team, we were growing different departments, marketing, HR, accounts, finance, operations. What we did was, we don't worry, there isn't a huge amount of work yet, but it's going to get busy. It's going to grow again. And 2023 was that year that it didn't grow the way that we wanted to. And with inflation running at, I think, 7%, the cost of living was a challenge. And that's when it all
And your
we
NDIS fees are locked. You can't
yeah,
increase your
fees are
fees.
locked. So
Yeah,
2019 was their last increase, even now. So that was 4 years now of had a price ceiling of a fixed rate from the NDIS. And so they're year on year saying you need to be more efficient, and we're not going to keep paying you to be inefficient anymore. And rightfully so, it's taxpayers' money. I That's totally understandable. But what we did the classic mistake of, we grew our overheads faster than revenue. And we did that because revenue was growing so much. Our services were in such high need. We were growing so quickly, even nationally, but we grew our overheads way too quick. And when growth stopped, like Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you're going to see who's been swimming naked real quick. And we were swimming naked for quite a while. And the way that we funded our growth was the ATO. When it comes to quick cash and easy money, the ATO can be your best or worst friend. And what we would do is we would payment plan the ATO over 3 months, and then before the BAS was due, we would pay it all back and then re-enter another payment plan. And that helped us make really big growth decision, hiring on board, get all the equipment, get everything ready. And each year that it worked for those few years, we grew into it, and it
yeah.
was like, Bill, it's like
Had
getting
the
that.
perfect formula almost.
Yeah, it was, so get that massive office, even though we only need a fifth of it. But don't worry, even though the overheads are massive, we will grow into this space. And that is true and does work, but not always. And if you don't grow into it, the overheads can choke you and your business. And that's what started to happen to us, that we couldn't reinvest more into our clinicians and our frontline team. We couldn't support them as much as we should. and our overheads were too high, um, and we couldn't grow out of it anymore. We kept on trying to grow with more marketing and more clients, but like like any business, you're growing on weak foundations, and a business that isn't generating money, enough money, or losing money, you're just highlighting the problems tenfold, and that's sort of when it all came to fruition. So my one of my senior finance team members at the time said, "Look, there's I'm doing a projection in cash flow, and this was kind of August now, and our low point is between January, March. Paying out your team are on leave. There's a lower period of
Mm,
volume of clients because they're on leave on holidays, and the business has still got to pay its in overheads and entitlements and pay and everything." So he said, "Look, we're going to get to a low point where most likely we're going to need you to fund the business." And I'm going, "Well, okay, this is not good. We've got well over 100 team members. We're nationally, and things are a bit rickety. And can't we just grow out of it? The age old problem." Well, no, because only a couple months prior, we had the letter from the ATO that said, "Well, you've been paying quarterly PAYG. You're a large PAYG withholder. We should have picked this up a few years ago. Our bad. You're actually going to be paying PAYG every fortnight." So that put a crunch on our cash. This is June when we heard of that. So July, we were making fortnightly payments to for our PAYG. So we weren't on the quarterly basses, or we still do bass, but we were doing PAYG every fortnight. So our cash was getting tighter. We still had that payment plan with the AT because we still used them to leverage for growth. And it sort of all started to come together where we couldn't use the ATO for growth anymore because we were paying every fortnight, and then we still had the quarterly payment. Then margins weren't strong enough. We didn't have benchmarks in productivity, which is in our world billable hours. We didn't have benchmarks, so we couldn't really dictate or show to our team this is an expectation. We didn't even have we had so many things. I look back now and go, well, how did we even get
yeah,
that
yeah.
far? But when he said you've got 300, I need 300 of your own cash to float the business, that's when I go, that's too much for me to ask. And our strategy hadn't changed outside of, don't worry, Jordan, just floater and we'll grow out of this problem. And that wasn't, I've just had a gut feeling that that wasn't going to happen anymore.
Just put me into that moment, like put me into that conversation when your finance manager or director is explaining that to you, and you're starting to realize what's happening. Well, what's happening for you, like inside your body?
Oh, you're starting to go, well, that few hundred is pretty much, that's my house.
Mm.
And go, well, there's not
You got
much.
young kids at the time, right?
And I had 1.5 year olds, so I had twin boys. So that was just hectic with, twins in itself. Kids in general are a challenge, but then you add on twins, and so it was a really tough time. Both my grandma just passed away, and I was really close with my grandma, and all through my childhood we had that challenge of twins at home, and my wife caring for them, and sleepless nights and all that. And then you had the work challenges. It was just like getting squeezed from every angle. It was a pretty bad place, but I knew that no one was going to come save me. I had to.
Was there ever a moment of just like, that's it, we're fucked, like this too much, 300 grand is insurmountable, even for a split second?
Look, maybe that ego that we talked about earlier, that can be your biggest crutch, but is also an asset. That ego kicked in and went, Jordan, never give up.
Yeah, yeah.
Not a You can do this. You need to grow a pair, lead your team, lead your business, and make some difficult decisions. Trying to be, you're not a popularity contest, and that's the hardest thing as a business owner. You want to be liked and from your team, and have that good persona. But at the end of the day, if you don't make the hard but right calls, which might be unpopular from time to time, you put the business further and further at risk, and ultimately And I
Is that something
realized
you've learned as a result of this, or is that something you realized in that moment?
from that moment that I was, we weren't making the right hard calls at the time to run the business the way it should, and it came the chickens came home to roost in a really bad way, and so from that point I had to go, well, I've got to turn this business around, and I had to look at what, and this was very hard. I had to look at what are the roles that I really need now and this was in the support office and in our engine room. What roles did I hire that were before growth that and have those hard conversations that we didn't actually grow
Mm,
into where we wanted to. And if we continue to do the same thing and not change at all, we're putting this business at risk. And at the end of the day, we've got to look after, we've got to keep this business going and we've got to get our costs under control. And that was a really hard point where after that we had to make some changes.
but I just want to push a bit harder on that because you almost like it's in the hindsight because there may be someone going through this at the moment. So you've got this, like you said, you're getting squeezed from like all facets of the business, right?
Personally, professionally,
You've
family,
yeah,
yeah, like
you've got the
mm,
twins at home, and having been a dad who's run a business, like you can't really go home and offload at home because you go in and like your partner's been at home for young kids all day and like you're
oh,
just you get
yeah,
bombarded, you're going to door right and rightly so.
yeah.
So how are you coping like as an individual? Is it just one step in the forward? Like is there have you got anyone who's there for you? Like what how are you
Yeah.
navigating this passage?
Yeah, so look, at that time when it was all kind of coming, the walls were closing in as it felt. That was where I had business coaches and advisors. I had an advisory board that I was part of each month with other business owners to share your challenges. I brought on a life coach at that time who was helping. It was like an executive coach
Yeah.
slash life coach to help with personal and managing personal and business and getting that right. uh, I would never skip gym. So that was really important to me that, working out is just as good for, mental health as it is for physical health. And I did my best to have advisors and key people around me that wasn't, my partner, because it's not fair on your
Mm.
partner unless they're involved in your business. And I don't know how anyone goes into business with your wife, but that's hats off to you.
Was your wife aware of how bad it was when it was bad?
I think I don't know. I think she did, but I think I just got that look that Jordan, I know you've got this. You
Yeah.
can figure it out. I don't think
Powerful.
she ever gave up there, and it was hard. I remember one point, and it was at the low points where as I was saying at lunch to you earlier, like you're going through such challenges in your world, whether it's a combination of business, personal, you know, you're in the room, but you're not in the room. You're
Mm.
thinking about all the things that you've got to deal with, all the potentials, the what might happen, what might not happen, how you're going to have that difficult conversation, or how you're going to
And you're taking heat for not being in the room.
and then you're getting so then you're dealing with that, but then also you're taking that hit, which is all, respect that you're not present. And my wife was, having kids that were running around and breaking things. And this is why you can't have nice things, especially when you got twin boys. But, all days, and she wants to talk about her day and what and you might be going, yeah, I'm listening, but then
You're not.
you're not. And that's not fair. And then I remember one moment when I was coming home and just vomiting all the challenges of this, that, and the other. I remember she said, I didn't sign up for this. And I know she did it, that hurt. And I realized, I was like, in all fairness, she's right. And that was her breaking point, that I need to deal with my shit, and have my advisors. And I was paying 300 for an hour for one coach, 600 an hour for another. And then I was, whatever it was, I was racking up those fees. It
Mm.
was tax deductible, luckily, because it's executive coaching. But I need to increase that spend because that's not fair to put that pressure on the family home and deal to bring that home and not be present. And by all means, that wasn't an overnight fix, but I learned to, and you're struggling with sleep as well because it's go, go, go. I've always been a high energy, impatient person, and I've got to work on that. High energy, I think that's a that's an asset, but impatient can be an asset, can be a crutch too,
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
like anything. But yeah, I had to yeah really work on myself personally, and as well as get the right help professionally.
And what was the hardest? You know, you said you have to make some really hard decisions and
Mm.
face the hard conversations to fix it. And like, I think it's worth saying you have fixed it, right? The business is now in a really good place, and
Yeah, absolutely.
every dollar's been paid back, and like
Yep.
things are great, and you've learned loads from it, which is awesome. So
Yep. Yep.
let's hammer that home because that's a big outcome. But
Yeah.
give us some examples of those hard decisions and those hard conversations you had to go in and have.
Yeah, look, again, that was the roles that we hired in our support team that were in anticipation for growth that never came. So it was the hard conversations of there were quite a few roles that unfortunately we can't support moving forward, and we need to bring back the team size to what's appropriate to the level of that the business can sustain, and is really we're going to have to consolidate and steady it up when and growth was off the table. It
Mm,
was growth in individuals, it was growth in internal individual performance, and how can we, but not on an external side. And that was, yeah, a real challenging point that, you really good team members that, were doing their best, but their roles weren't, if the business is going to stay where it is and not grow, those roles weren't needed.
mm,
So that was the initial challenge of what can I do here to make sure that I right size the team for what the business needs, and that was all happening in the back the back office or the support team, and then it was all right. How do I get my cash flow planning sorted and get it really right, and start working on getting our debts paid out and sorted. So it was interesting for that next 6 months. It was like going through the P&L and every scrutinizing every little expense. I think I found tens of thousands of dollars wasted, and something as small as we had about 60 odd company cars on the road, and we were paying Toyota Fleet Management a fixed monthly fee. And what they did was they bundled it up into, presumingly based on you drive this many kilometers per year, we're going to charge you X, which includes new wheels, new servicing. And we're going to make it easy so you don't have to worry about cash flow because it's going to be the same payment every month. The problem is, I don't want to make the same payment every month and be overpaying. I rather
yeah,
have a different payment every month and save
save what you
30% on
yeah.
my bill. So I didn't realize that it took me a while, that I brought them in from Brisbane. They came down to our head office and take me through. I just feel like we're paying too much and I don't know where. And he okay, I'll come see you next week and I'll bring a report. And I remember he was like, "Ooh." I was like, "All right, what
He
are we
knew.
at?" He's like, "Yeah, we've been overcharging you hard. Mind you, we're not giving a cent back because that's the plan you're on. So just want to let you know that." So I was like, "All right, is that how it's going to be?" But he's like, "Look, we calculated that your guys would be driving 40,000 Ks a year and they're doing 20,000 Ks a year." And I was like, okay. So we were, charging them for 4 sets of new
Yeah.
wheels every year when they only needed it once every 2 years. So, and all this
Added
sort of
up.
stuff.
Adds
And it
up.
added up. Now, it worked out to be like 35 grand. He's like, we've been overcharging you. If you go to pro rata and only pay for what you use, you're going to save like 35,000 a year. And it was just little things like that. It was like, that's, at a
Mm.
business that's, into the eight figures in revenue, it doesn't sound like a huge amount but
But when you find them all
it's
the
your bottom
time,
line.
yeah,
35,000 here, then you're finding another subscriptions you don't use here. You're looking at, the office. We downsized our office. We had this big fancy head office that, our clinical team doesn't visit much. They don't need to. We're a mobile based business. It's mainly working from home and you work in teams in different regions. But we're like, this is ego. This was ego a few years back on the big growth trajectory. So I remember downsizing the office. We broke our lease 3 years into a 5-year lease, and we were paying something like 220 grand a year. for our office that no clients go to, no referrers, clinicians would seldomly come to. This is a waste, and
Yeah.
this is not fair. This isn't, please, NDIS, increase your hourly rate so you can support our bloated expenses, or hey, to our clinical team, you work harder to offset our poor business decisions. It's no, we have to make the right call for the industry that we're in and downsize.
What was the day you dropped the ego, or the moment that you dropped the ego?
That was the conversation around,
Right, yeah,
if
that
we're
was
going to
it.
keep the same strategy, you're going to be out 300 in
Yeah,
cash, and you're going to have to float it. And on top of an ATO debt that was currently sitting at 620,000
yeah.
that we couldn't yet figure out how to pay off,
What was that
let
number?
it
Sorry.
620.
Yeah, big
So
number.
that was a, yeah, that was a painful moment, going that, having, yeah, ATO, using the ATO as a bank, it has its purpose, but if you can't pay the debts, then the
Mm,
problems are going to kick in, and so we had to downsize, we had to look at our costs, we had to look at how we operate, we had to, had negotiations and chats with the ATO, and this was coming out of COVID. They weren't very friendly to work with, and we were considered a large PAYG withholder, so we were not considered your mum dad businesses
yeah,
or your
yeah, yeah.
small.
You're not
We were considered, yeah, we're too risky for them to not get the money in, and so they were really pressuring us, but put it on a payment plan,
yeah,
and went, okay, that's sorted. Now we just need to make sure that we, pay that off steadily. At that point, I wasn't the highest paid, and in the business, and by a long shot, and I did what I had to do to make sure that we got our debts under control.
sold
And
the Range Rover.
yeah, I did. I did. I sold it to my old man, actually.
Did
So
you?
thank you, Dad. He out there. He mind you, he still drove a good bargain
Did
with
it?
me,
I
and
bet
I
he
was
did.
fair and reasonable, and he bought it, and I went to a Corolla, which is a company car that our guys use. So I drove that for a year, and it was a humbling moment, coming from a top of the range Range Rover, and going, and selling, having to sell that, but that was okay
Mm,
because still love, absolutely love the industry that we're in, healthcare, what we do. It's a rewarding business. We're changing lives, and I was like, I need to pull my head in, eat a humble pie, and go. I've got a fantastic team who are really doing great things. They need a responsible, strong leadership to set this straight, and this is starts with
that
the founder.
that's one of the really cool things that comes in the story, right? Is your own journey of personal development, which you're really big on, your
Mm.
own journey of personal growth, parking the ego. You've changed the business, become a really healthy business.
Yep.
None of that would have probably happened if you hadn't gone through what you went through. So you're grateful for that?
Looking back and even thinking about now, it's probably the best thing that ever happened, as the hardest point in my life. Uh, I was too much winning, and your ego getting too big and growing from 2 mil to 10 plus in the matter of a few years, and there has to be a point in time where your skill, you're in a game, you're playing in a bigger league, and your skill set isn't there. And sometimes you have to go slow to go fast, and I didn't want to go slow, and it caught up, and it was the best, as a challenging part of the life. And we kept on servicing our clients, we kept, our clinical team were doing a fantastic job, and we supported them, all, and we made, we got through. But it got me to think that it's hard to make a dollar, but it's so easy to see it go. It's so
Mm,
hard to generate a $1 in profit, but it's so quick to see that go. And as I had to, yeah, you have to slow things down to then go fast. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And that was, I felt that was weak and not the best way to run. And now I'm like, that is the best way. No matter how fast you are growing and how big if you need to, at times there are seasons, and it's a cyclical. You need to go slow to improve your systems, your processes, review, get the right roles in and the right training, and before you can go fast again. And you can't just foot down constantly. And yeah, that from that moment, it's the humble pie. It's still there. I'm forever, yeah, grateful that I get to lead such a fantastic business and team. And yeah, no matter how much where we go and how we improve, I just want to be world best in class. I don't need to be the biggest. The biggest is definitely not the best by all means. How do we be best in class? And that comes down to the quality service delivery that we have. Being able to support clinicians through careers in our business, and getting great feedback from our clients and referrers, which is something we get quite
That's
often.
awesome. That's awesome. And you can tell, and you just listening to you can see your passion for it, right? And you can also see the almost the gratitude for the journey you've been on.
Been here, I'm still here and kicking, right? It was a
Exactly,
few
mate.
close
Alive,
calls,
yeah,
but
alive and kicking, and, and happy. That's the main one. And so, the last question I ask every founder who comes in is, what would be the one sort of piece from your story, the one learning from your story you'd want to pass on to another founder?
look, I like to. I think healthcare business owners, we hide in the shadows too much, and I think it's important that speaking as a founder of a healthcare business, we should be really proud of growing our business, and be proud of being better CEOs or business leaders, not just from our clinical backgrounds, which is important. But for me, talking to other founders, it's that if you want your business to improve, if you want to grow a great team, you have to be prepared to put that put your the technical skill, your foundation, which might be being a physiotherapist or an occupational therapist or whatever it might, to go, that is now an important skill set that got you to where you are, but it won't get you to where you probably want to be. And if that's to continue to grow a great team or improve your business profitability and efficiency and help more people, you need to run a good business, and you need to sometimes let go that your identity as a clinician potentially could holding you back from being a great business owner, and really step into the identity of a founder CEO. And even back that 3 years ago, I didn't want to call myself a CEO. I didn't for quite couple of years. I was just founder and physiotherapist. Just I want to go back to the root. I didn't even feel like I earned the title to be a CEO. And over this past year, as the business has rapidly improved, and we're we're much more efficient, and we've got great career pathways, and we've turned it around. Now I go, yeah, I am a good CEO, and all that professional development that I've invested in myself and all those hardships and learnings is what makes us a great business and what makes me a better leader. And but I've got to lean into that. The identity is a business leader, and it's not physio first, even though that's my number plate's a physio. That's, I've got a personalized plate physio. So proud of it. I've got my 2 degrees right behind me in my office. I'm proud of my origins. But if you want to be a better business leader, letting go of your technical skill and learning how to be a better people leader and learning the commercial aspects of business is what will allow you to help more people at the technical skill that started your journey.
That's awesome. Powerful advice. And mate, thank you. Thanks for coming up. Thanks for taking the time to do it. And mate, I think thanks for your honesty and openness. It's awesome, and it's been a great conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Legend.